Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on episode 3 of the anime series 3D Kanojo Real Girl. And if you managed to watch and get through the entirety of my episode 2 discussion video, which had been preempted by a sort of prologue where I was, recapping all the first episodes I had watched up to that point and such like that, which I will forgo doing from this point on until I do an eventual overview for the spring 2018 season, which should be coming soon. If you got through that video, you know that I was a little bit perturbed with the whole first half of episode 2 because for all intents and purposes, Iroha was lying out of both sides of her face, every other line of dialogue. And it was confusing. It was perplexing. I didn't know what her motivations were, why she was lying out of every other side of her mouth. Every time she turned around, another line of dialogue would contradict the last thing she said, and then she'd admit she was lying, and then she'd tell another lie, and it was confusing and muddled, and I wasn't really making sense of it. By the end of the episode, finally things had formatted back to how I felt after watching the first episode. It was really heartwarming and sweet with the growing closeness between Tsutsui and Iroha, respectively. And so I was still on board with the show by the end of episode 2, but it had been really highly frustrating, whereas the first episode of the series I was really impressed with. It really excited me. It was the first thing that I had watched up to that point. And if you go back to my first episode, first impressions discussion video, I even said in that video, it was the first thing that left me excited out of all the stuff that I had watched thus far to really kind of want to talk about. I liked the characterization. I liked the dynamic going on between Tsutsui and Iroha. They're coming together, her standing up for him and such like that, and then his having her back in return. And so the back and forth there was really, sort of heartwarming and fulfilling to me. So it did excite me. It was the first thing that really excited me out of the spring 2018 season. And so now, after having sort of a flip-flop, reaction to episodes 1 and 2 respectively, with episode 3, I gotta say, I loved this episode from beginning to end, and it couldn't be any more for the reason of the debut of the character of Ishino. She is best girl, as far as I'm concerned, in this series, in this episode. We begin with Tsutsui, of course, sort of picking up where we left off. He had brought Iroha back to his digs, and she had fallen asleep. He had fallen asleep. He started to get a little pervy on her, trying to take a picture, like up her dress or something like that. But then he recoiled and was like, what is going on with me? What am I doing? And rather, he covered her up, and she ended up leaving while he sort of cowered on his bed. I don't know if she assumed he was back, asleep again or something. But he gets really awkward around Iroha at this point because he is such a wallflower. He is so socially inept. He just doesn't know how to react to all of this. In a sense, it's kind of like he's self-punishing in this idea, like with the kind of person I am, with the kind of life I've been leading, am I really worthy of this kind of kind-heartedness, of this kind of relationship, of this, really rewarding thing with, to share and spend time with another person? Am I deserving of that? And he doesn't know how to function. I mean, Iroha waves at him when they're like ready to go running around the track or something like that at school, and he just kind of, ignores it, and she's like, huh? Yeah. He's actively pushing her away. She's the first girl, she's the first anybody other than his buddy that gives a crap, a care or concern about him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. So he's pushing her away for all intents and purposes, and she'll even come to say, that's it, I'm done. I'm not trying with you anymore. Leading to his having to sort of like a puppy dog run up to her pleadingly, apologizingly, I didn't mean to act that way, please forgive me. In a sense, but this is where we have the debut of Ishino, and at first I thought it was Iroha. She had come up running behind Satsui, after Satsui had sort of ignored Iroha's waving at him. And this girl slips on a banana peel that just is there for who knows why, who knows how it got there. In the entirety of this like school walkway, there's just a banana peel. It's just there. And so, of course, Ishino, not Iroha, as I had first assumed, manages to slip right on this thing, falls face flat. She's got like a soccer ball. And here you have Satsui going to extend his hand, here, let me help you back up. And she smacks his hand away and like, oh, you're gross. You're an otaku. Get away from me. And he's very much used to that kind of reaction, that very demeaning, dismissive, really hateful kind of judgmental reaction. So it's not, something new for him. He doesn't really affect his mood one way or the other. He's just still sort of, built up with this confusion and frustration about how to handle Iroha. Never mind the girl who typically, as everyone else does, calls him gross and an otaku and get away from me, that kind of thing. But what I really love is that after this one little act of kind-heartedness on Satsui's part leads Ishino to sort of, when she sees him cowering in the back of the classroom, they're in the same class, when he's really perturbed over this predicament that he now finds himself in. He has been recoiling. He's cognizant of that. He knows that he's pushing Iroha away, this thing that could be potentially the best thing for him at this stage in his life. This girl who's open-minded to him and accepting of him and all this kind of stuff. He's cognizant of that, but he cannot process his own emotions. He can't really figure out how to behave himself around her. And here we have Ishino kind of sort of reluctantly extending an olive branch, and it's like a 3-step process. She doesn't come out right away and become friendly to Satsui. And all the while she still thinks he's weird, even though she's giving him advice. And at one point, he gets up the courage. How do you act around someone you like? And I love how she does the little, oh, I love you so much, senpai kind of thing. It's absolutely adorable. But she still doesn't want anything to do with him for the most part. She still considers him a gross otaku, but she's beginning to warm to the idea that, hey, you can't really judge a book by its cover. We're all human beings after all. And even though this guy seems really distant and really quiet and really weird, really pervy, really strange, geeky, keeps to himself, he's not quite sure how to handle himself romantically. He has an interest in someone. I have an interest in someone. We have commonalities, and it makes her sort of open more and more to him, little by little. And this whole journey, I love how this episode revolved back and forth around, Satsui and Iroha, but also Ishino and the guy she had the hots for. I almost didn't expect that we would find out so much about her in one single episode. I thought this was like, setup, precursor to something that would evolve over the next few episodes. But lo and behold, not only do we find out she has a crush on somebody, she likes somebody, she's actually kind of sort of dating this guy, and this guy's trying to get money off of her and considers her stupid because he's got other girls he's seeing, and she didn't bat an eye when she noticed that some of the girls' clothes were in his bedroom or whatever it was. And I felt really bad for Ishino in that moment, and it was kind of the perfect scenario for her to confront her own confusion and uncertainty about this relationship she was exploring, coinciding with that Satsui and Iroha have going on. Now, of course, Iroha, at one point, when Ishino's like, well, I'm going to help you out big time. I'm going to cut your bangs and make you more attractive. You should really be considerate of your appearance if you want to win somebody's heart and everything like that. And there's some truth to that, not entirely, but, you shouldn't make that matter above all else. But, appearances and trying to deceive somebody and act like something you're not. but she's very kind-hearted, and she's now at this point she's leveled out to this acceptance of Tsutsui, that hey, we're the same, we kind of have the same frustrations going on, we're the same age, we're exploring things and experiencing things for the first time, and all of this is just sort of the empathetic characterization I get from her. It's not anything that's spoken, but you deduce it through her actions, through her interactivity with Tsutsui, that she has become more accepting, where she wouldn't go anywhere near him and didn't want, to even touch his hand. Now she's grabbing him and putting him in a chair and putting a cloth around his neck and getting ready to cut his bangs. So there is a commonality that she now appreciates. And this is where we have Iroha sort of stumbling onto this, and the jealousy, the possessiveness, shows its true colors. And so that kind of, while it was a little bit pushy and a little bit outlandish and a little bit unnatural on Iroha's part, at the same time it kind of humanizes her to me, because I have been wondering how genuine or not is she in her interest in Tsutsui. I had, put forth the speculation, I think in my previous episode discussion video, that I wasn't sure, could she be just having fun with Tsutsui? She knows her time here is limited. Maybe she's not really open-minded. Maybe she's not really infatuated or interested in him. Maybe she's just having fun with him, like playing a gag on him or something. And her sort of possessive nature, her jealousy over just seeing, Tsutsui interacting with Ishino in that moment, in the sort of friendly way that he is, even though it's reluctant on his part. It really sort of grounded the idea for me that Iroha is genuine. She actually does have an interest in him. And she's very much, I think she's speaking, true to her words about her feelings, like, he's mine. I found him. I appreciated him when no one else would. You're not taking him from me. Stay away from my boy. Stay away from my man, And even to the point where she tells Tsutsui, don't hang out with other girls. I mean, she crosses a line, but at the same time, it's kind of endearing, because now it solidifies for me, yes, she actually does appreciate him, and she actually does like him. Her words about, being fearful of Ishino's warming to him that much more, having a developing interest in him, were she to see his true colors, were she to see who he is on the inside, rather than just judging the book by its cover, the weird otaku who's in the corner quietly every day and hangs out with the weird cat ears guy and everything. If you looked beyond that, you would appreciate more about him, what he is about, the humanity under that veneer. And that's kind of what Ishino has already warmed to, while not necessarily having an interest in him. Although, of course, by the end of the episode, she says something like, I never thought I'd be jealous of him, like, a girl having him for a boyfriend. But I'm kind of jealous, with what we see she goes through, with this just jackass asshole, demeaning her right in the hallway, talking to his buddy about how stupid she is, how it's great to have her for a girlfriend because she'll give him money, and she's none the wiser about his two-timing, and I wanted to choke a bitch. This asshole. And I'm glad that Iroha did. I was half expecting Tsutsui to do it, but he was kind of just like, let's get out of here. But rather it was Iroha who goes up and brains the guy with her bag, and resultant from that is his breaking up with Ishino, which is for the better, but it's really super painful for her. And I just love the culmination that out of this, these are people she never would have wanted to have anything to do with, and suddenly by the end of this episode, through the growth and the development all contained within this one episode, this singular episode, she has sort of become part of the pack. She's found these 3 new friends who really were caring and concerned for her, who really were accepting of her, and who she would have never batted an eye at before. Now she's really warmed to them, and she's seen them for who they are rather than what her expectations were, her preconceptions were. And for that, I mean, I loved her growth and development in this episode. She was the most winning aspect of this episode for me, even beyond the growing, sort of evolving, is it really going anywhere? Relationship between Setsui and Iroha. Of course, we once again bank on the fact that she's only here for 6 months. And I almost half found myself wondering, are they kind of setting up like Ishino's going to be the girl he ends up with when she leaves, whatever reasoning she has to be leaving, whether it's a health thing, going back to her lies in episode 2 or not, or it's just her father's like a businessman and he's got to move somewhere else. I hope we will get a little bit more explanation there. But, this episode was really uber satisfying for me in that characterization of Ishino and her at first, demeaning and completely having nothing to do with Setsui and his kind, his friends, his little troop, and then becoming well and truly part of it, being accepted by it, being accepting to it. And that's really what friendship kind of should be more often than it is. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 3 of 3D Kanojo Real Girl, if you've seen it as well. If you made it to this point in the video, I appreciate it, because I know I am verbose, long-winded as all hell. Just wait for the 2018 season of anime, spring season of anime recap. That's going to be a lengthy one. And, so yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.